Few genres are as geared towards getting a rise out of us as horror. In fact, one could say it is horror's job to make audiences squirm, shudder, cry, jump, and feel sick to their stomach. But while most filmmakers know where to draw the line between tasteful terror and outright degeneracy, some definitely do not. There is a cadre of talent working in the genre who are dedicated to bringing us the worst images and scenarios they can conceive of, pulling together their effects, audio, camera work, and actors to batter us into submission. Anyone who has seen a movie from Gaspar Noé or Lars von Trier knows exactly what I mean, and some viewers simply cannot take it. Indeed, audiences around the world have some pretty serious reactions to challenging horror films over the years. Vomiting, passing out, shouting abuse at the screen, spitting on the director, and running away. Whether at awards ceremonies or down the local multiplex, they've done it all. So, which picture comes to mind when we say it might make you lose your lunch? Or which movie do you screen for friends in an effort to see them chicken out? Chances are, they're among the following features. I'm Sean Ferrick for What Culture Horror, and here are horror movies audiences couldn't handle. Crimes of the Future, 2022. David Cronenberg's much-hailed return to body horror after over 2 decades away, Crimes of the Future nabbed the title from one of the director's dubious early works and got Cronenberg's hitherto non-body horror star Viggo Mortensen on board for a look into a disturbing yet pain-free future world where mutation is the norm and plastic is king. Viggo Mortensen stars as Saul Tenser, a performance artist who crowds throng to see him operated on in real time. His partner Caprice is a specialist at tattooing and surgically removing Saul's new and wonderful organs for paying audiences, and their celebrity appears to keep them safe from the revolution brewing outside their studio. Now, that sounds like a lot, but nothing you can't handle, right? Well, when the film gets into its final 20 minutes, which includes the public autopsy of a child, some audiences couldn't stay put. Viewers found this section hard to stomach, and people walked out of screenings. One critic even reported seeing a man on the verge of a panic attack. But really, anyone who's seen Naked Lunch should have gone in prepared. Goodnight Mommy, 2014. Veronika Franz and Severin Fiala's German-language horror Goodnight Mommy brings many parents' darkest fears to the fore by having the kids turn on them. Just out of hospital after extensive cosmetic surgery, the mother, played by Suzanne Wust, only ever referred to by her familiar designation, never by name, returns home to her twin boys, Elias and Lucas, played by Elias and Lucas Schwartz. Thanks to her heavily bandaged appearance and unusual behaviour, the mother's complex relationship with her sons develops in strange directions within the confines of their large, isolated house. The boys question her identity, wondering if she is actually their mother, and react accordingly. What follows is 1 hour and 40 minutes of suspicion, tension, and outlandish behaviour as Elias and Lucas take their mother hostage and torture her for answers. It's a difficult watch, but for some, it proved just too much to take. At the film's premiere, most struggled not to wince and close their eyes during its second half, when the violence and sadism ratchet up several notches, and 2 people even fainted. The Neon Demon, 2016. Thanks to their graphic content and jaggy narratives, art house auteur Nicholas Winding Refn's films generally defy comprehensive definition or explanation, but each shocks in its own unique way. The Neon Demon drags us screaming through the sparkles, sarcasm, and trauma of LA's fashion world, following 16-year-old model Jessie, played by Elle Fanning, on her way in from small-town Georgia. Linking up with fashion photographers, makeup artists, and other models, Jessie gets her start in the industry, but while her youth and beauty are her greatest assets, they are also the things the city wants to take from her. What follows is a grand melange of narcissism, assault, murder, necrophilia, and cannibalism as a neon-lit underworld shines through and consumes everyone and everything it touches. Despite being super aestheticized, with just about every frame of the film worthy of being hung on the wall, the lush visuals didn't save viewers from a rough time. When it premiered at Cannes in 2016, audience members walked out, and a sizable number of those who stayed wound up shouting abuse at the screen and booing. Suffice to say, The Neon Demon is not for everyone. The Substance, 2024. Bringing Demi Moore back into the limelight in a role that feels super close to the bone, Coralie Fargier's The Substance oozed across our screens last year. Moore stars as Elizabeth Sparkle, an aging dancer and TV personality shifted out of a regular spot by her producer and forced to turn to other means to recapture the success of her youth. The other means in question is The Substance, a black market drug that allows her to spawn a second self, Margaret Qualley's Sue, who is youthful, sprightly, tight-bottomed, and wrinkle-free. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, though technically the same person, the two women and aspects of Elizabeth's personality begin battling for control over one life, ignoring the rules of the substance and bringing about dire consequences for them both. This body horror feels like prime Cronenberg, and this might explain why people walked out of screenings thanks to the shock factor of the visuals and the frequently violent nature of the film's already difficult to watch scenes. Strangely enough, though, most reported departures happened early on, up to the midway mark, long before the film's final act, where things really take a turn for the The Last House on the Left, 1972. Wes Craven's The Last House on the Left offered society exploitative thrills, but also challenged it to take a closer look at itself. In the film, Mari, played by Sandra Peabody, and Phyllis, played by Lucy Grantham, head out to the big city for a gig, but their search for a little reefer to supplement their fun leads them into the clutches of a gang of psychos who assault, beat, and abduct them. They take the girls to the woods near Mari's house, where they are toyed with further and eventually killed. The gang pose as travelling salesmen and seek refuge at Mari's family home, but when her parents realise who they are and what they've done, all bets are off. We're talking chainsaws, electrocutions, and bitten off penises. The film provoked strong audience reactions in every cinema that would show it, and brought forth a moral outcry that would pave the way to the video nasties era. In fact, it traumatized audiences so severely, the tagline adopted for promotional material was, "To avoid fainting, keep repeating, it's only a movie, it's only a movie." Saw 3, 2006. Saw 3, the last credible movie in the franchise's original run, before the plots turned to flashback exposition of the previous film's events and ever more ridiculed reveals. This threequel calls up Jeff, played by Angus McFadyen, to the grinder, forced into a warehouse rat run of tricks, traps, and tests that challenge his capacity for forgiveness, following his inability to recover from his son being killed in a hit-and-run accident. Unfortunately, Jeff's success in this area will determine his and his remaining family's fate, and Jeff is not a forgiving guy. Meanwhile, in the background, a dying John Kramer is locked in a quiet battle of wits against his rogue apprentice, Amanda, who has taken to sabotaging traps so Kramer's victims have no chance of survival. The Saw films have always been a tough watch, but English audiences struggled with this one. The East Anglian Ambulance Trust reported an unusual spate of emergency calls to cinemas on the night of 3's release, treating people overcome by shock and fright. 5 people needed ambulance assistance, 1 was taken to the hospital, and the Trust's spokesperson released a statement saying they hadn't seen anything like this in nearly 2 decades working with the ambulance services. Titan, 2021. After stunning audiences with university cannibal horror Raw, Julia Ducournau was going to have to pull something pretty grotty out of the bag to sustain her expectations. And with Palme d'Or winner Titan, that is exactly what she did. Following an insane young woman with a metal plate in her head, Agatha Roussel's Alexia, we are led into a world of mechanophilia, murder, and manipulation. After killing several people and getting impregnated by her favourite ride at an auto show, Alexia goes on the run and becomes Adrienne, the lost son of stricken fire chief Vincent, played by Vincent Lindon, whose steroid use is ruining his life, but perhaps not as much as his new lodger. A body horror that moves in fits and starts, Titan may have won over the Cannes glitterati, but festival audiences on the other side of the globe struggled to get through to one piece. Indeed, although the director herself never saw anyone faint or throw up, at the Sydney Film Festival, at least 13 people collapsed during the film's premiere, with some outlets reporting 20 or more casualties. The House That Jack Built, 2018. Lars von Trier is nothing if not a provocateur, and having spent a career attempting to make his audience have strong physical and emotional reactions, he truly succeeded with his most recent film, The House That Jack Built. Jack, played by Matt Dillon, is a seemingly average guy who enjoys the little things and big things in equal measure. He likes hunting, driving, romance, and architecture. Unfortunately, he also enjoys killing indiscriminately. Across a 12-year period that takes him through the 1970s and 80s, Jack commits his crimes wantonly, sometimes with a plan and sometimes totally off the cuff, all while trying to build his ideal home on a hill. The kills are deeply disturbing, the visuals are grim, and this particular subject diverges far from your regular studies of the human condition. Premiering The House That Jack Built at Cannes, von Trier got exactly what he wanted when it provoked widespread and vocal outrage and a mass walkout. And who can really blame the audience? The house that Jack builds out of bodies near the end of the film is, on its own, enough to put anyone off their popcorn, but to get there we have to wade through untold mutilations of women and children, presented with no details spared. The Exorcist, 1973. Heralded as the scariest film of all time upon release, given it was 1973, this was almost definitely true, William Friedkin's The Exorcist didn't hold back, making both its antagonist and victim a young girl, and committing scenes to screen that audiences couldn't even have imagined beforehand. Bloody crucifix, anyone? The film stars Linda Blair as Regan, a 12-year-old sweetie pie who suddenly acquires the ability to levitate, speak in tongues, and walk down the stairs backwards. When things turn sinister and Regan seems undeniably possessed by an otherworldly spirit, her mother, Chris, played by Ellen Burstyn, does what must have seemed the sensible thing to do at the time and calls in a Catholic exorcist, Father Lancaster Merrin, played, of course, by Max von Sydow. While the 1970s were the time of The Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave, bringing the first major wave of shocking horror films untethered from the social mores of the first half of the century, mainstream cinemagoers were not used to anything too extreme. And the audience reaction was extreme. People fled the cinema, running up the aisles, screaming for Jesus and vomiting in the streets outside. And there were even a few stranger occurrences, including when several men had heart attacks and one woman allegedly suffered a miscarriage. Terrifier 3, 2024. It still beggars belief that Damien Leone's Terrifier franchise made it to cinemas, arriving as it did from the grottiest corner of straight-to-video neo-trauma, neo-giallo contingent. And yet, last year we were treated to Terrifier 3 in cinemas around the globe, and boy did mainstream audiences not know what they were in for. David Howard Thornton's Art the Clown returns to Sienna Shaw's, played by Lauren Lavera's, life in a bid to finish what he started in Terrifier 2. Although Sienna has her guard up and is ready for an attack, this time Art's joined by Victoria, played by Samantha Scafidi, one of his previous victims, who has come back from the brink possessed as a hellbeast. Together they are determined to put an end to Sienna and her family, the only people who seem to be able to stop them. There's blood, guts, and several scenes that take a strong constitution to get through, and yet the very first scene, in which Art slaughters a family of 4 on Christmas Eve, pushed people to their limits right from the get-go. Indeed, at Terrifier 3's UK premiere, audience members vomited in the aisles and walked out during the opening scene, and by all accounts, this was no outlier. Fans reported walkouts, faintings, and even more vomit at showings across the country and beyond.